doesn't like blow up. It
Why would,
shouldn't.
why
I
would you?
don't know. It's making weird, like overacting noises, but I've closed everything out, so I don't know. We'll see. It'll be a fun thing. I'm going to pull up your page now so I can look at the comments as they come up if need be. Oh, we're live. What up, people?
Buongiorno. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Monday morning coffee chat. Trish and I have already gotten the party started here with our coffee. We were just commenting about our mugs. So yours is from London, right?
Mine is from London, although I looked the other day and I apparently hadn't taken off like the sticker on the bottom, when you do that, and it definitely was made in China. But I think that they did a wonderful job. I don't even know if you could see it, but it's adorable.
Was that
And
just like from a gift shop in London?
yeah, I did.
Cool.
Some gift. Oh, no, strike that. I got this at Home Goods.
My mom loves Home Goods.
Okay, so name all of the stores that really you should not be allowed to go into anymore. Home Goods is one of them for me.
Oh, Nordstrom
Target.
Rack, as we were just talking about, Target is always the devil. It's always been the devil, though. I love Target, but I hate Target. It's the place where you go to buy shampoo and then you spend $100.
Oh, okay. Well, you get out of there easy then.
I was talking
That would be nice.
you do know that people who live abroad, like Americans, if you ask them what do they miss the most about the United States, they always say Target.
Well, because it's like I don't know why it's so wonderful. It's such a perfect store, and I think that you used to receive my girl's gift Christmas card, right?
I was with you when you found your girls Christmas outfits one year.
Oh God, that's right. Yes, we found the Santa outfit, and
Yeah,
of course at
you and I have
Target.
lots of random shopping at Target before.
This is supposed to be about travel, but when you travel to Target, ladies and gentlemen, when you make the journey to Target.
I didn't do my introduction, though. For those of you who are watching, you probably know that this is one of my favorite people. This is my friend Trish Feaster. Trish Feaster her alter ego is the Travelphile. And so if you want to check her out, if you haven't followed her already, you should. And she's also my partner in crime in so many ways, but especially in the Guide Collective. So she is I basically just came up with the idea and she's making the Guide Collective happen. I cannot take any credit for the Guide Collective at all because Trish has been like the major force of nature that's been making that go. So welcome, Trish, to Adventures with Sarah today.
Thank you, Sarah. Super happy to be with you on Coffee Chat and really glad that you've got so many people joining in. Hi to everybody. Hope you all are doing well, staying nice and cozy. Have your coffee, or if you're elsewhere in the world, having your wine or aperitivo right now.
Cafe Corretto, maybe.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So Trish and I started the Guide Collective, in April, and that's become kind of the bulk of a lot of what we do with our time is just this idea of trying to figure out how to keep our colleagues working and happy and having a good time and creating new stuff. And I think it's going well. How do you feel about the Guide Collective?
I think it's great because you and I have a lot of creative energy and we have all these ideas going all the time that we can't always do. And it's nice that we have friends and colleagues who also have great ideas and we can just bounce them off of each other and somebody runs with it. And it's such a cool collaborative thing that if not for COVID, this wouldn't have happened. So, I mean, if you're to look for a silver lining in things, for us at least anyways, I know that this has been a huge kind of, I don't know, energy booster for all of us. It gives us a lot of focus and a lot of direction, and the things that I think that we're all learning from each other, technology wise, travel wise, communication wise. It's been a godsend, I think. I hope those of you guys out there who are watching, you've had a chance to be able to check it out because our friends are creating a lot of really cool things, and I'm just so amazed by all of them.
Yeah, well, and that's been the thing that I had this idea even more than a year ago. I had the seeds of the idea, and then when all the stuff kind of went down in May about working and stuff, I just thought this is the moment. This is the moment that we should all be doing this. And I think what's kind of exciting is just the idea that we can plan something and build something for the future, whatever that's going to be. I love the idea that we've been talking about bringing like the kids in, because I've always thought, wouldn't it be cool to build something for, you know, Luca and, you know, Lisa Anderson's kids, all of our kids, you know. So yeah, it's a neat thing that's starting to kind of take on a life of its own. And a lot of that obviously is thanks to you. But yeah, it's pretty cool that we have the ability to build something and that everybody's getting plugged into it and energized by it.
Well, I'm grateful. One, I love working with you anyways, I always have, but to be able to develop new skills too, you know, just the whole editing process and being able to manage the website and get everybody on board and do all of that fun creative work and see how things come together and to encourage people to develop them. And especially like you were talking about with the kids, to have them be able to share their own points of view and get them to be able to connect with the wider world in that way, because they've already made those connections, right? And there are so many people out there who have had that opportunity with the democratization of travel, and it prior to COVID being so much easier for everybody, you know, being able to take your families on these long vacations or revisit places and get deeper experiences. It's amazing. I mean, I actually don't know what it was like for you growing up as a kid prior to your study abroad, how much travel you did.
My first trip actually was, my dad's not American, so that I think colors a lot of my experience. And also I grew up in a family that was very, I don't know how you'd say it, ethnic, I guess is maybe the right word to say it. They were very proudly Slovenian. So I always had a sense of not being 100% American, just because I grew up in the Slovenian hall where you heard people speaking Slovenian and Slovenian music and Slovenian food. And it was all about that kind of Slovenian nationalism, even if when I was a kid, Slovenia wasn't actually a country.
Right.
But nobody else seemed to notice that. But yeah, that having a national identity other than being an American was just sort of how I grew up. And then the first time I traveled was in 1985 when I was 10 or 11 years old. I went with my parents because my dad was a stockbroker and he was trading on the London Stock Exchange floor at the time. And so,
Dang.
yeah, my dad is kind of amazing. He's really super smart.
He's
And
not kind of amazing. He's super duper amazing. I love your dad.
I love my dad too, but he when he was young was a really high powered, super successful stockbroker. So he was working on the London Stock Exchange floor, and so we went and met them, and then we traveled. My dad's mom was from Liverpool, so we went and stayed with her sister, and we got to meet all of my relatives, my British relatives. Then we did like the whole loop through the continent, which back then, you know, it was different times. But we did the you know, Ural Pass thing. We didn't go to Italy actually. But we did, I remember, what did we do? We landed in Belgium, but then we just took the train and we went to Germany. We went to Munich. We went to Switzerland. Actually, we went to the Schilthorn. I'm certain we went to the
Really?
Schilthorn. Yeah, I remember that. I remember sitting in the rotating restaurant, and I'm not sure there's a rotating restaurant anywhere else. So I'm pretty sure it was the Schilthorn.
Oh, you need to find pictures of that.
Yeah, I have them somewhere. I have pictures of me and my sister sitting in the fields, like making daisy chains with the cows. And I was so afraid that I was going to step in cow poop. I did later step in sheep poop when we were in Ireland. So I had a premonition about that. Yeah. Yeah, and then we took the ferry from France to Ireland, and we stayed in Ireland with my relatives in Northern Ireland. Then we got chased out of Northern Ireland because of the Orange Marches. And then we drove around Southern Ireland, and that was my first year. And my sister sitting in the fields, like making daisies. Whoa! I was so afraid that I was going to myself now. Why am I hearing myself? I did later step in sheep poop when we were in Ireland, so I had a premonition about that. Yeah. And then we took the ferry from France to. We're having a little bit of a problem here, technical difficulties.
Sorry.
Are you still there?
I don't know. Yeah, I am still here. I don't know what's going on.
Oh.
Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I can.
Okay.
That was weird.
That's
never happened before.
Very strange.
Yeah. Anyway, so yeah, that was my first European trip experience. It's a longer story than that, but that's the start. When was your first trip to Europe? I don't know that I know that.
You know, not until 2000. So when I was teaching, gosh, it was probably into my third year of teaching, I guess. And one of my dear friends and colleagues, she was like, well, I have an extra space on this trip. I'm bringing a bunch of students to Europe. Do you want to go? It's free. Like, yes, I think I do. Thank you so much. And so the first place that we went to was Paris, and we had maybe 14 students with us, something like that, 14 or 15 students with us. And all of the stuff that you build up in your head about these trips, and all of the things that you imagine and remember from movies and television and reading it in books and your history classes and all of that stuff was just so pent up in me that when I got there, I just fell in love with everything. And had we landed in Rome first, or London first, or Madrid first, I think that would have been the thing that made its imprint on me the strongest. But it happened to be Paris, and I fell in love with that city so hard. I mean, just everything about it. And I wanted to soak up as much French culture as possible. And that's what kind of started me off on learning other languages besides Spanish. I was already a Spanish teacher, but I really dove into that because of this wanting to be this Francophile, But we did Paris, we did Madrid and Barcelona. And at that point, then I just vowed I have to get back here every single year, no matter what. I don't know how it's going to happen. I don't know where I'm going to get the money. I'm just going to make this happen. And so either taking students to Europe every year. At one point I had gotten a scholarship through the Spanish embassy. It was specifically for teachers, and they had a program through the University of Santiago de Compostela in northern Spain, in Galicia. So I did a summer program there. I did 2 summer programs with the Sorbonne when I was learning French, because I wanted to earn a degree in that too and be able to teach that. So just all kinds of stuff that led me down that path. But the things that I did with my family, the first time that I went abroad was to the Philippines when I was 6. And at that age, I'm just not sure if my memories are my memories, or if it's because you look at photos and you think, oh, I think I remember this thing or whatever. But I do have I think they are my own memories. I have vivid memories of being on the beach in an area called Bicol, and lying on a hammock and just, lapping it up, just enjoying every single thing, not having to do anything at all. I remember swatting a bunch of mosquitoes. At that point, my face was so swollen with all the different mosquito bites. But I remember also having the bottle of Coke, and you had a bottle of Coke, and I had the bendy straw, and I'm swinging in the hammock and I'm grabbing that and I'm drinking and my eyes are closed. I'm doing that. And then like maybe the 5th time I take a sip, there's no liquid coming out. I'm like, what? I couldn't possibly have drank that all. What is going on? So I open my eyes, I look at it. There's definitely a lizard inside there. So this I know is my memory. No, there's no photographic evidence of it, but I know that happened, and it freaked me out. And I stopped drinking Coke for years as a child because of that. It just traumatized me.
Yeah, I would agree that would traumatize. I think my traumatic experience from my first trip to Ireland was that we went to visit. We were in the north and visiting my dad's family outside of Belfast, and my dad, of course, wanted to introduce us to all of the relatives. And I was the good kid. My sister was always a bit the rebel. And so she never wanted to do what people asked. So my dad, so I don't think my sister was there. Maybe she would correct me on this, but my dad asked me to go with him to meet his aunt. And his aunt, he's like, oh, I haven't seen her in years. He left Ireland when he was like 15 or something. So he's like, I haven't seen this aunt in a really long time. She was old when I was a kid, so she's got to be super old now. So I said, okay, I'll go with you. And again, this is one of these things that I remember, but I was like 10. So it's sort of like, do I remember it? I think I do. And we went to visit Aunt Jetty's house. And I remember walking into the garage, and she lived in the garage. And they said, oh, well, she doesn't live in the house. Everything in the house has like drop. And I remember there being drop cloths on the furniture and thinking that was weird. And it was that her sister she'd lived with her sister for many years. Her sister had died in the house, but she just didn't tell anybody. She just moved into the garage. So, I mean, eventually I think they did remove the sister, but yeah. And so she was really eccentric. And my dad used to tell me stories about how this woman would go steal apples from her orchard, and she'd come out with a shotgun and try to shoot them. And anyway, But the story, the famous Aunt Jenny story, she was super weird. But I mean, I'd never been in Ireland. I'd never met all of my relatives over there. I mean, and Ireland was a really different place back in the 80s, especially Northern Ireland. And so all of it was weird. I just remember all of it being so strange. And then this aunt who was very eccentric. It was like, do you remember Miss Havisham? Remember Great Expectations, the movie?
Yes,
Miss
yes.
Havisham? Okay, it was totally Miss Havisham. You walk in there and everything has cobwebs and it smells like mold and all this kind of stuff. So we're having this conversation and I'm being very polite and all this kind of stuff. And at the end, Aunt Jenny really liked me and my dad, so she gave us something to take back to the family. And she handed us a roast. And so it was a pan and she handed it to me. And I remember walking out of the car with this roast and my dad and I opened it up and looked at it and we were darn sure it was a cat.
No,
or
no,
or a
no,
squirrel. I'm not sure. I think she cooked one of her cats.
no, nope, 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 nope. I can't.
So that's the famous Aunt Jenny story. We took it back to my Aunt Rosemary's house and we gave it to her and immediately she's like, okay, we're going to throw that out. Yeah, the famous Aunt Jenny. I don't know whatever happened to her, but yeah, that was my introduction to my Irish family. It's awesome.
Great memories. Oh, the travel fun.
Yeah. So, well, we've been talking about what's next for travel. I just got back, from a trip, but you and I are talking about maybe doing a little girls something, something. How are you feeling about travel?
God, I'm so super conflicted about that. I put a couple of questions on the Travelphile and on Guide Collective Travel Community and on Rick Steves Europe because those articles had been coming out about rapid testing at airports and which different airlines were going to be doing things. American is going to do rapid testing in Dallas. Hawaiian Air is going to be do rapid testing in LA and San Francisco. And I was really wanting to know what people felt because I go back and forth really from minute to minute about that's a great opportunity. But the fact is that even if you do the rapid testing, you might still be a carrier and be asymptomatic, and you could be carrying stuff to a whole other land that doesn't need to have you doing that, obviously. Or, you could be around people who are the carriers. You're in this confined space. But at the same time, I want to get out. I want to go. And it's very hard for me to literally sit still and then just to be in this one place. I have that nomadic part of me that needs to be on the move. My brain wants to learn and go out there. My favorite part of just life is being steep on a learning curve, right? Being actually put in a place of discomfort where you're having to figure stuff out, where you're having to learn. And I feel comfortable in that discomfort. And so I just need to go. I want to go somewhere.
That is so beautiful right there. I love that because I feel that so strongly. And I've never really put it into those words before that I crave that discomfort. I crave that sort of like being dropped into a place where I don't understand, because I think there's a skill that I know I've developed over the last 20 years, and I'm sure you have too, where you get dropped into something new and then all of a sudden your brain just starts kind of observing and you go, okay, this is how people are greeting each other. Okay, if I need to go do this, this is okay. What's the word for bank? Okay, I know and you start.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting because you can just feel your brain start to make all of these connections. And then I always feel like within maybe 2 days of arriving in a new place, I sort of get into the flow. Like I know how to just sort of get into like, okay, I've observed how people get on and off public transportation. I've observed that thing they do when they greet each other. And you just sort of start almost involuntarily doing it. And I don't know, I'm sure there's a German word for this, right? The pleasure.
For sure. Fabian, if you're out there, just type that into the chat box because I want to know what is that feeling of being uncomfortable and adapting and knowing and becoming better at whatever it is that you're doing, and
the pleasure of discomfort.
It's the pleasure of discomfort.
Yeah.
Not quite Schadenfreude, but it's got to be a thing.
It's got to be a thing. I'm sure the Germans have a word for it. But yeah, that's interesting. You and I've never talked about that before. But yeah, I absolutely feel that. Yeah.
And I think too, I mean, it is kind of Darwinistic in a way, right? It's evolutionary skills. The more that you adapt, the better you are at adapting. Yep. And the more you do that thing, the more it becomes recognizable to you, it becomes pattern, it becomes behavior. And so the next time you're in not the same situation, but a similar situation, you can adapt faster. And I feel like I'm losing that skill. That's what I feel. And I dread that. I really, really dread just this. This is the death of me, is this, you know?
Yeah, no, I feel that. Well, and I think that that's part of why the Guide Collective thing has been so great, is that we have an ability to at least somewhat vicariously have that, because I know a lot of people at home are feeling the same way. And the feedback I got from all the live streaming stuff that I have been doing is the same, that people just have been really starved for that, the sensation of doing that new thing or seeing that new place or all of that. Yeah. And I guess, you can go and explore your own hometown more, for sure. But yeah, being somewhere foreign, it's just different, isn't it?
It really is. And God, thank you, first of all, for doing all of that, because you were literally, and I hate when people say literally, but you literally were working like 18 hours a day, 14 to 18 hours a day, physically traveling, being on the move, learning new stuff, and then documenting it for all of us to watch. And so thank you for that. I mean, it really was an amazing thing for us to be able to vicariously travel through you and feel like we were there. I was rewatching some of them today, just, kind of to prepare for this coffee chat and remember the things that you had done. And it was just so cool. But also at the same time, it seemed, at least from the viewer's perspective, effortless. But I want to kind of know the real behind the scenes thing, if there
Well,
was any
but it is kind of effortless, because I guess, and you and I were talking about this earlier, how do we encourage our colleagues to start doing virtual events? And I guess maybe it's because I have such a great community. The Adventures with Sarah community is just so supportive and friendly that, when I turn on my Facebook page and I want to go live, I always just feel like, I'm not thinking of one person in particular, but just the warmth that I get from the community really feeds my soul, that I just feel like, I've never had really trolls. I've never had negative people in the group, and everybody's always so supportive and encouraging. And so for me, it's just like, it's like having, I guess the way to describe it is I have this amorphous friend. It's a friend. It's not 30,000 people, or 40,000, however many the count is. It's a friend, and it's a friend I really enjoy talking to. And so that's what it is. I feel like I'm on FaceTime with a friend. It's like talking to you. I mean, it feels exactly the same way as it feels like when I'm talking to you, which, if we're on FaceTime together and we're laughing and we're having fun together, that's how I feel. So when I'm walking through Rome and I'm like, oh, I'm going to go to Giolitti and get my favorite flavor of gelato, I totally want my friend to know about this. And so then I just hop on the live and I'm like, okay, everybody, I'm going to go get my favorite gelato. And I really want you to know about this because it has a really, sentimental story to me. And I want you to experience this with me. So I think that's what it is that that's my approach and my thought in my head when I do videos, is that it's not, that I'm putting a show together at all. It's that I'm phoning home. I'm calling home, and I'm letting everybody know what I'm doing, because I think it's fun to share. It's a pleasure shared is a pleasure doubled kind of thing. I think that it's enjoyable. And I think the other sensation that I had, and I know that some, like Elisabetta, had the same feeling, I think, and some other people that we work with, getting to actually do our jobs, even if it's just virtually, it just leaves you feeling, well, Charlie said it today, it kind of gives you that buzz, like, oh yeah, I'm good at something.
Right.
When you can't do your job for so long, you forget that you're good at something.
I wanted to just backtrack a little bit, because I was scrolling through the comments and they're all kind of starting to disappear as new comments pile up on top of one another. But Hazel, and first of all, hi everybody. Hi everybody who's been saying hi on the comments. So cool that you guys are here. But Hazel said a comment about the discomfort thing, and she says discomfort in your travel and all of that. Yeah, that's fine. But discomfort in knowing that I might die from COVID because somebody's sitting on the plane next to me, this, that, or the other. And I think I do want to just circle back to that, because, gosh, I don't know how people are going to be traveling when they're going to all feel comfortable doing that kind of thing. But somebody kind of has to lie down on the barbed wire. And I don't mean that like, okay, somebody needs to get sick, but they do have to have these implementations tested out by people. And I think that if you are safe and if you are getting those tests, if you're doing the safety precautions, wearing your mask, stop touching your face. Don't be careless about that. Wash your hands all of the time. And if everybody's doing that, I mean, the science shows us that there are so many ways that we collectively prevent this from spreading, but if half of the people aren't doing something, or, even a quarter of the people aren't doing what they're supposed to be doing, then that's where the issue lies. But hopefully we all can get on board and do the right thing and get travel going.
Well, and my experience with it was that at least Delta, I can speak to, was spectacular with their checks, because they took your temperature before you got on the plane. They don't have the COVID test, the rolling COVID test yet, but they took everybody's temperature. They made sure everybody, and they walked around the whole flight. My flight between Seattle and Amsterdam, they walked around the whole flight and were patrolling. And if people would even just move their mask down underneath their nose, they'd be like, nope, put your mask back on. And they handed out Purell when you first got onto the plane. The plane was obviously super sanitized. So, I mean, we don't know how this virus spreads. And I know there's a lot of fear out there, and it's absolutely justified. So especially if you have a compromised immune system, I absolutely wouldn't be traveling if that was the case, for sure. But it just kind of goes back to the, I just don't think that this is something that's going to disappear once there's a vaccine. I think this is something we have to learn to live with. We need to change our habits and behaviors. Here's an interesting thing. Did you see that maybe you posted this, somebody posted that how in Australia, the flu season, there just wasn't a flu season.
I was just reading about that because I was reading in the New York Times about like whether or not you should get the flu shot this season.
Yeah.
And it's going to be different this year because there wasn't that kind of Southern Hemisphere to Northern Hemisphere transportation happening like there normally would be. And because Australia and New Zealand were so good about maintaining safety precautions right from the get-go, yeah, there just wasn't really that big of an issue.
Well, and with the flu, I mean, I just think about my habits and behaviors a year ago, and they're so different now. Like my phone, I don't know, like the last time this phone was sanitized. Like it was clean when it came out of the box, and that was probably the last time. But now I take it and I sanitize it every day. I wash the case every day. I come home from grocery shopping, and as soon as I get in the car, I have my sanitizer and I sanitize my hands as soon as I get in the car from the grocery store. I always have my mask. I mean, these are not things I would ever have thought of myself as adding into my routine, but I'm going to keep a lot of these things even later because yeah, it's crazy that it's October and nobody in my family's gotten the flu.
Let me ask you this. Do you, when you're out and about in public and you hear or see somebody sneeze or cough, what's your reaction?
Move away. Yeah, well, move away. And that is,
I mean, like immediately, I literally out loud, and of course in my mind just go COVID, and I will turn the opposite direction. I exhale very forcefully out of my nose and out of my mouth to make sure like nothing's coming in, everything go out, go out, go out. And I don't know, I feel like a freakazoid now.
Yeah, no, I was walking down the street and somebody coughed, somebody who looked a little disheveled, and they coughed, and I literally held my breath until I was like maybe 10 feet away. And I know, and that's going to be the bad stuff, is that we're going to have all these weird behaviors after this. And I think about my poor kids too. It's like, man, this is formative year kind of stuff. So what's that going to mean? But
isn't that going to be interesting? I mean, we're going to have a generation of kids who, for the longest time, the imprint is going to be wearing masks and always washing your hands, which I mean, I guess is a good thing. I'm loving that people want to be cleaner. Yay.
Yeah, but let's think about like for our own selves, like what was the thing for you and I, because we're both from Southern California, and both of us grew up in the 80s and always being afraid of the next big earthquake.
Right.
And the earthquake drills and having that pantry stocked full of food with the extra water. My pantry is like 8 feet tall and 4 feet deep. Like when this whole like quarantine thing started, I'm like, oh, I'm good.
Yeah.
Because I always have that mentality from growing up in LA in the 80s that you need to be prepared for the big earthquake. So there's that. And also I think that we have a huge impression from the Cold War too. I mean, just the idea that we all need to, that Armageddon feeling, I think is really a big part of our generation. So, yeah, I guess every generation has their thing that affects them. So this, unfortunately, will be what shapes my kids.
Yeah.
What are you going to do? But I found that, for me, traveling on airplanes, having to wear a mask for 10 hours or whatever was not my favorite thing ever. And honestly, if I didn't have a compelling reason to go, I wouldn't have done it.
Right.
But, I think it was an interesting experience. I think that I learned to get used to a mask, which if people aren't used to masks, you got to get used to it, man.
Mhm.
I think this is here to stay. And I would project, after my experiences with the long haul flights, I would predict that in the future, that's just going to be a courtesy. People are going to be asked to wear masks from here on
Yeah.
out on
And
long
I mean, it's not that much of a hassle,
no.
it really isn't. In the grand scheme of things, it's not. Hey, I want to get to some of these questions, Sarah, because there's a bunch that are popping up. And Jerry is asking, have you gotten your flu shot this year? And Jerry, in fact, I did. I got it on September 30th because my insurance was switching over the next day. And so I was like, well, I might as well get this done today. So thank you, Kaiser Permanente. I got my shot. And then I was, my left arm was completely weakened for the next 2 days. It was very, very strange feeling. I mean, I've had it before, but it was worse than it had been normally. And then I was a bit fatigued, but other than that, it was fine. So 48 hours and I was all good. What about you?
No,
Not yet.
I will.
Oh,
No,
yeah,
I've only been home a week, so I'm
that's true.
self-quarantining basically. So
And then people are like telling their stories about sneezing issues and running into people. So that's kind of funny. Um, but hey, let's get back to like what our travels are going to be. What do we have on our dockets?
oh, well,
Maybe.
so, everybody keeps asking me when I'm going to put out the tour dates for next year. And I keep kind of punting it down the road a little bit just because it's, we don't know what's going to happen. I was hoping there'd be some clarity by this point, but there obviously isn't any clarity. So, um, that's why I've been holding off a little bit. But, that the thing that you and I've talked about before, and I'm going to be focusing on is these staycations. So that's going to be my main goal for next year, is doing these sort of small groups, stay in one place and really get to know a place. And I think that for me, that's a great idea for the COVID situation and limiting risk and only having one hotel and keeping groups small so there's less exposure and all of that. But that it gets more to the heart of something that I think is important, which is that mass tourism has really become such a problem, and we need to change the way people look at tourism. And talking to people in Italy, it's so funny when everybody takes a break and they look back and you turn around and you go, oh my God, 2019 was a nightmare. Like one of my friends said, it was like running in a hamster wheel, just
Yeah.
being constantly inundated with people. And nobody wants to go back to that. Nobody. And talking to hotel owners and local guides and travel professionals, the thing we all agree on is that everybody needs to slow down. And if everybody could slow down and people could stay longer and get to know places more, explore into hidden nooks and crannies that maybe you wouldn't otherwise, that this is the way that people would like you to experience their places. And because then you develop a sympathy for it. And I think the thing is, when people do this kind of mass tourism, only being in a place for a few hours, they don't respect the place. And I think that's where we get people who are, damaging the Colosseum by carving their name in it. Oh, I'm only going to be in Rome for
Did you
15
see
minutes. I
that
need to
last
carve my
week?
name in the Colosseum. Yeah, no, that's happened more than a few times in the last few years. And so I just think that part of that disrespect, it also has something to do with this cheap and cheery quick tourism. I think that just this whole like culture of super cheap tourism just kind of needs to go away, and I know that maybe isn't cool because that shut some people out of it, but backpacking has always been a thing that people can do, and you can be a cheap traveler, but you can also be a respectful traveler, and you can also be a traveler who goes to learn. And I know that the counter argument is always, well, what if you only have one chance and you want to see everything? And I hear that. I do. And there's always going to be people that want to look at things through the bucket list. But the problem is, if you have 10 days and you see Paris, Munich, Venice, Florence, and Rome, you've literally seen nothing. You've seen nothing because you can't remember any of it. And I've seen it. We've done tours where people stay in a city for less than less than 24 hours, they don't remember it. You take your pictures and then, and it's like having been nowhere, I guess is when people give me that argument, oh, but you know, Americans have limited time and they want to, that might be their only shot to see everything. Okay, but you never saw anything because you never actually gave it a chance to get to you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, I remember one of my college professors talking about it because we were all zoning out, and he's like, "Hey, everybody just stop for a second. You only are going to remember 30% at best of everything that I ever say to you." So then he just started, his point was that he was going to speak faster. So the more that came into us, the more in theory that we would learn. But I think that that's true with travel. If you are going to all these different places, if you go to 10 places, yeah, you might have seen those places, but you're going to have maybe 20% of that ever stay in your brain. And so, yeah, you get to check off your bucket list. I did this, I did this, I did this. Well, what do you know? And what do you know about the people? And what kind of connections did you make? And how long is that going to be? How is that going to help you to change, to evolve, to see a new perspective? And it is a courtesy, right? It's a courtesy to the country that you're visiting, to honor it and to respect it in a way that you want to learn more about it, to get more in depth, to have a real experience rather than just snapping your pictures and being on the go. Because otherwise, really, just look at the internet. You can go to Google Images and you can find pictures of all of these different places, and that's essentially what you're doing, you know, just click and go, click and go. And I, like you, would much rather have an intimate, extended experience that makes me feel like, wow, I have a better understanding of this place than I ever would have. And maybe that's the one place that I go, but dang, that's a memory, and that's going to stick
Yeah.
with me for the rest of my life.
And don't you think, I mean, I look at the whole Instagram culture and the whole, like, what I would call it achievement-based tourism, which just really bothers me. And that's the narrative we need to get away from is, oh, I need to have gone to all these places and have photos. I need to have a photo of me in front of the pyramids. And then I need the photo in front of me in the Colosseum. And then I need the photo of me at the Eiffel Tower. And it's like, it's sort of like people feel like they're going to like get a big prize if they hit all the major bucket list sites, you know, like it's an achievement to have done all of this stuff. And it's competitive or something. I don't know. There's something about that that really grates on me, the whole Instagram sort of culture of, you know, look at me in front of this place.
Right.
And yeah, I guess don't get me started on Instagram. I was talking to somebody recently who said, "Oh, I always take pictures of myself on Instagram because I just get a lot more interaction when it's a picture of me in front of something." And I always just think, well, if it's you in front of something, then it wasn't actually you taking that picture. And when we're showing things on Instagram or social media, shouldn't it be that you're expressing your point of view of the world and the way you see things? Like that, I think is better. So I don't know, there's just a whole, for me, it's something's broken about this idea, this competitive sort of comparison of how many places have you been versus other people, where it shouldn't be how many places have you been, but, you know, how have you taken that input and let that sit with you and be a part of your spirit. You know what I mean?
Oh, I completely agree with you on so many levels, and I hope people are starting to shift that way. I I I wonder too how many of you guys out there, when you're traveling, because we're all guilty of it. I mean, like I will definitely take a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I've been there literally 60 times or whatever in my lifetime. You know, but and I'll still do it. I'm not saying don't do that, but what is your reflection? What is your connection to that? Or whatever, to the people, to the cuisine, to the history, whatever it is. But one thing that I've noticed I've stopped doing, mostly because of, I don't know, working too much, is I don't journal anymore when I travel.
Yeah.
And that opportunity to slow down, to reflect on the day's activities, to think, God, what was I feeling when this happened? What was my impression? What struck me about this? Um, there's nothing like that, to put literal pen to paper, you know, not typing it up, because I still will write my articles and I do that and I love that too. But that physical act of putting pen to paper and making those memories come back and live again in a new format, because you've processed it and then transcribed it in a way that shapes how you remember that experience. And I'm wondering, how many people still journal anymore?
I have to admit, this may sound terrible, but being a travel writer and all, I have always been terrible at journaling. I have probably a dozen journals that I started like the first 2 days, and I wrote lengthily the first couple of days, and then after that, I don't write anything else. And that, I have to say, is one of the things I love about this Facebook page, is that I've always been so bad about journaling. And I like to write, but to write an article takes me 2 or 3 days. I actually
Yep.
really think about it, and it takes time. And that's why I haven't been writing a lot of articles for my blog. What I love about the Facebook kind of thing is that I'm in the middle of having an experience, and I can quickly document it. I can show a photo, and I can share it. And I guess basically Adventures with Sarah is my journal. This is my journal from the last 5 or 6 years, where I just sort of document things that move me, feelings that that's it's not the same, but for me, this has been actually a really cool experience, because now I have a record. I actually was just looking through it the other day, things from like 2015 or 16, because I don't remember what I was posting then. And it's just interesting to see over time how it's morphed. So it really, for me, this is my journal now.
Yeah.
But I would say, on the other hand, the other thing that I have thought about is I used to paint a lot, like especially when I was first here. When I was first in Italy, I would go out and draw and paint every day. And there is something really specific about your brain's ability to record things using your muscles,
Mm-hmm.
So anytime I've ever done a watercolor of anything, I remember sitting in that place. I remember what the air smelled like. I remember, everything, because I was sitting there for, even if it was just a half hour, 45 minutes to try and do a sketch or a watercolor. That physical act of observation and moving and translating, it really makes an impression on your brain. I just think that it's like a biological thing,
Well, it is. And, we all have different learning modalities. And as a teacher, we're taught to make sure that we're having all these different types of teaching methods, because not everybody learns the same, right? Like, you can have a classroom of 35 people, and you essentially have 35 different ways that you need to be able to communicate this. And for me, when I had to make that assessment about myself, I know that I am more a visual learner than anything else, right? Like, I like the kinesthetic, and it definitely enhances my visual learning, and I need the oral as well. But for me too, that visual is so strong that when I look at my phone, that's why I take so many photos. And truth be told, I looked the other day, 82,000 photos on my iPhone, which is
Wow,
ridiculous. But
you're making
I
me feel
can,
better. I have 50, so
yeah, 82,000 plus 4,000 videos.
yeah.
But I can go back to each of those moments, and I am transported to that moment. I relive the smells, I relive the scents, and the way the breeze felt, or what was happening and what was going on in my mind. And that's how I write my articles, is that I can just go back to that photo and go, oh yeah, this is what, and then I can write the stuff down.
Yeah, well, and articles are funny for me. I don't know how you go about it, but I have to be inspired. I have to be sort of struck by lightning. And I wish, actually, that when I got ideas, that I would just like plant myself and start writing them, because you and I have the same brain. We talked about this popcorn
Mhm.
brain, right? We
Yeah.
both have the popcorn brain, where we're just like idea, 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 idea. And yeah, Francesca Caruso, our friend, she said that I'm a creative tornado. And I would say you're very similar that way. We're both kind of creative tornadoes. So I just need somebody to like be following me around, and I'll just like dictate articles. Because you're the same. I know
Yeah.
that it's like
Well,
you
that's
get on.
like with Guide Collective. I'm like, okay, here's the thing. We're going to do this and this and this and this. Now you go.
Yeah, which is so great, because it's like, oh, finally we have people to do the things that we keep talking about. I think you and I would rule the world if we both had personal assistants. We just need to have somebody who's constantly writing down. You had that cupcake idea thing once. That was a great idea.
I was just thinking about that too. Can somebody do that? I almost don't want to share that idea, because I
No, don't
keep
share that
thinking
idea.
in my brain, I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it at some point. But I also want to tell somebody to do it, because I just want to give money to it. I just want to pay for, like, do this thing. I'm happy to give you money and just make it for me. I want these things.
Yeah, that's the problem is I have all kinds of great business ideas, but I don't
Mhm.
really want to run a business. Like running Adventures with Sarah and Guide Collective is way more than I ever wanted.
Right.
That's part of why I left architecture actually. And this is the great irony of my life is that I left architecture because I never wanted to own a business. I just didn't. I don't like accountants. I mean, personally, I like accountants. Personally, I like lawyers. I have friends in both of those fields. I don't like doing accounting. I don't like talking to lawyers. I don't like doing all the things you have to do, the businessy stuff to run a business. I've always avoided it like the plague. And I knew that if I wanted to go any higher than where I was in architecture, that I'd need to start my own firm. And I kind of felt in my mid 20s, oh crap, I'm going to have to start my own firm.
Mhm.
I just didn't want to do that. So here's the great irony in my life. Here I am. And now I own a business or two. And I'm just like, oh crap, this is not what I wanted for myself. But on the other hand, being an entrepreneur is kind of awesome because I'm totally digging this whole like, let's create our own universe, choose your own adventure sort of
Well,
existence right
but that's what's awesome about what you get to be able to do. I mean, I do have to say, I'm a little bit envious of that you have dual passport. I'm trying to see if I can actually get my Philippines passport because my parents are from there, and I was born in the United States while they were still Filipino citizens before they had become official US citizens. So I think I still have access to that. But I think that if I had the chance and I could, travel as much as you do, I definitely want to do more videos like you are. And I should probably do stuff in San Diego. We have a lot of things that are opening up now. There's really cool boat tours that are happening, and they revamped one of our maritime museums, and I do want to go check that out. So maybe I'll start doing things like that. Plus, you and I have some adventures to do.
now.
But
Hello.
here's my side hustles. Okay, you know that I'm doing masks. Okay, so
Yes.
shameless plug right now, everybody. Travelfile, no, excuse me, the Travelfile shop.etsy.com. The most comfortable masks that you will ever wear. Check it out. But then, one of our friends from the office at Rick Steves, she, hello, Kate, she messaged me and she had seen some of my photos go up. I think I had done some memory about like Florence or whatever. And I had this sunset photo. And she's like, oh my gosh, it was making me cry. I saw when you put that up. Can I buy that digital print from you? And then I'm going to print it up here in Seattle and put it up in my house. Oh my God. And I just felt so touched by that.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I think literally have 82,000 photos to go through.
Yeah, I
And
thought
maybe
about
that'll
that
be my
too.
next side hustle.
Well, yeah, I've thought about that too, because I have some really cool photos too. And you can use like Redbubble or one of those things to do like bags or pillows or
Mhm.
whatever. Stacy, I've been trying to get to do that stuff too, to take her paintings and put them onto like, fabric or
Canvas
whatever
totes would be
like that.
really cool with her
I
stuff.
would love this to make a dress out of that. Like, wouldn't that be super cool? So I wish
Mhm.
she would do that. But hello, Stacy. Got to
Thank you
got to
there,
get on that
Daisy.
girlfriend. So yeah, us with our entrepreneurial ideas.
I know. Okay, wait, so back to travel.
Okay, okay.
So, do we want to tell people maybe what our plans are? I think if we put it out in the universe,
Okay,
then it
you go.
kind of
You go.
comes to happen.
You go.
So, Sarah
You
and
go, girl.
we, I don't know if you've ever seen the two of us together, like physically what we look like when we're standing next to each other.
It's like
But
this.
Sarah, tell the people how
It's
tall
like
you
this.
are, first of
No,
all.
that's about right. That's about right, people.
So Sarah is 6'1".
Two.
Okay. 6'2", excuse me. She's 6'2", and sometimes she wears a little bit of a chunky heel, like a flip-flop thingy,
I do
sandal,
like
whatever.
heels. I
So
do.
let's just call her 6'5". And I am 5'1", barely. So just take that in for a visual image or whatever. And Linda, hi, so your question. It's the Travelphile, Travelphile shop.etsy.com. And there's going to be new masks coming out this week. So check that out. But anyway, so Sarah and I are really like this, and we just go walking around and it's so we have this idea of maybe doing some kind of fun show or whatever, and we're going to test it out. We plan on going to Viva Las Vegas, Viva Las Vegas, because it's a quick trip for the both of us. And what's nice about Vegas right now is they're doing cool staycation packages, right? So we can stay for a longer period of time, and they do cool discounts and all of that fun stuff. And there's so much cool stuff to check out. Like I really want to do the Neon Museum with you, Sarah. I know that you've gone. I'm a member.
Oh.
And I love them. The whole organization is incredible. Their staff is amazing. Their docents are really cool and super knowledgeable. And if you guys haven't heard about that, well, just wait, because Sarah and I are going to go there. And the Mob Museum, I didn't get a chance to go to that.
I have not gone to that because, well, I have my skepticism about that, and because of my whole Sicilian affinity, I don't know. I don't know. I feel a little weird about it, but I'll go. I always want to keep an open mind to everything. So yeah, so I'll go. We'll go together.
We'll go. But all kinds of fun things. So that's just a little quick trip that we could possibly do. And then we also do have plans maybe for later in the autumn. Maybe, we don't know.
We don't know. We're going to try some different things. So yeah, so we just thought it'd be kind of fun for us to be like on camera together because, you know, we make each other laugh. I don't know if we'll make other people laugh, but we make
we'll be having a good time. It's fine. Maybe we'll just go to Target.
Let's just do that. Let's random shopping at Target, like Sarah and Trish's Odyssey.
Who wouldn't want that? I would want that.
We have a lot of fun at Target.
Well, that way, because then you don't have to go, like, we could just show you what's there and you'd be like, oh, well, I didn't need to go today because there wasn't anything interesting, you know? So, or, oh, I should get down there right now because that snow globe with Justin Timberlake is going to be gone soon.
I would, you know, people will pay for weird stuff on the internet. I would bet you somebody would pay to watch you go, especially people who are expats would totally.
Kim wants to go with us. Kim Colson-Bodner wants to go with us.
Who?
Kim Colson-Bodner wants to go with us to Target.
Sweet. All right. We could just do that. We'll just have like a Patreon meetup at Target. Anybody who supports me on Patreon, meet me up at Target at Northgate and we're going to go random shopping. We do have fun at Target. That's true.
Well, you know, but that's an interesting thing though, too, because it's very typical. I mean, we say it like, oh, it's so commonplace, blah, blah, blah. But think of our friends who have come during the Rick Steves summits, right? And we take them to Target or we go to TJ Maxx or we go to Costco. Holy cow, does that blow their minds?
Costco is always the place I end up because I don't know what it is that fascinates European friends about Costco, but yeah, I've spent a lot of time in Costco loading people into my car, taking them over to the Costco, and they just wander around because they just can't understand why.
Because why on earth would you need a 10-week supply of corn in a can?
Yeah,
but somebody does. Somebody needs it.
10 pounds of mayonnaise, but it's almost impossible to understand who that person might be. So yeah, so we have that's always a lot of fun, is taking people to Costco. Luca, do you have something to say?
Yeah, I think the reason that Europeans are so fascinated by Costco is because it is like the most American thing possible, just the most excess possible thing ever, gluttonous, decadent. It's all the things that European supermarkets are not. And it kind of like, if you went to Costco for the first time, it would shock you. And yeah,
yeah, agree.
So,
he had to leave his schoolwork to come over and share that with us. So.
Our friend Fran from Pamplona, Spain is actually on right now watching. And Fran, just for the people, can you just type in some of your reactions? Because you said, I can't stop laughing when I go there. And just when you get a chance, type some stuff in the comments so people can check that out. Like, what did you see and what were the thoughts going through your head when you first went into Costco? Because
I don't remember. I don't know if you guys remember, but some years ago, my friend Giuditta from Levanto came and lived in my basement. We called her the Italian in the basement. And actually what was super funny is that I wrote a bunch of articles about her living with me. And so people would find her at her restaurant in Monterosso and say, you're the Italian in the basement, which was really funny. So Giuditta is now known as the Italian in the basement. But one of the things that we just had such a blast, me and the kids took her to Fred Meyer, which if you guys don't have Fred Meyer where you are, it's like it's a Kroger, but it's like a mega grocery store, but also has like goods. It looks like a Costco kind of, but it's a grocery store. And we took her in there, and she's young. She had only been to the US, I think, one other time. And like the look on her face, her eyes got really big, and she was like, why do you need so much cereal? Why is there like an entire aisle? There's hundreds of kinds of cereal. Whereas you go into an Italian grocery store and there's always like cornflakes, Cocoa Pops, or Cheerios. Like you get maybe 3, maybe 4 or 5 varieties, but we have so many. The other thing she wanted, it cracked me up. You got to play this game with people that you know who are foreigners. Take them to a mega grocery store and let them find the weirdest thing. The other thing Judy wanted more than anything was she wanted easy cheese whiz.
Oh my God, Cheese Whiz, yum.
Cheese whiz, yeah, she wanted cheese whiz, so we had to buy cheese whiz, and then we had to buy pizza in a tube to take home for her dad because he's a really good chef. But then the most hilarious things to do to Europeans, if you want to just torture your European friends, these are my favorite things to do. Number one, and you know who you are, I have tortured you with this before, Reese's peanut butter cups or Reese's Pieces. That is something that most Europeans think is disgusting. And the other one that is very surprising is root beer. They don't like root beer.
Oh, I didn't know that.
I know. It's like, how can anybody not like root beer? But every single European friend of mine I've given root beer, they're like, oh my God, this is disgusting. Have you ever tried giving a European root beer?
No, I haven't. But it hasn't really occurred to me that you never see it in Europe, but that's true. And so it's just not it's not, their palate hasn't become accustomed to it. So
I think root beer is delicious. And
I
so
do.
that's just so shocking. And I think the thing is because we like super sweet things here. And
Yeah,
they don't like things.
that's what everybody's saying on the comments. It's too sweet. Fran thinks it's gross.
See, I told you.
Vomit emoji.
Yeah, I know. They all think it's barfy and disgusting. And I just, I love a root beer float. I think that that's such a great treat, but it's really, really funny that they just think that the flavor is really horrifying. So,
Okay, so Dawn Rowe is asking real root beer or bad soda root beer. And yes, there is definitely a difference
no,
because
but
if you
either.
had fresh root beer, like from the tap, it's so good and it's not as sweet. And Eviva in Edmonds, Washington, those of you guys are up there, they serve that on tap, also on Queen Anne. And there's also that root beer store on Highway 99 in Edmonds. Have you ever been there? Where they've got really like
Root beer
120
store?
different kinds of, yes, it's an entire store dedicated to root beer, but craft root beer.
Ooh, yum.
You have to check that out. I mean, I don't know what their situation is with COVID right now, but it was a thing.
Huh. Well, I do love root beer. And actually, the kids and I bought, when we had Judy living here, we bought a whole bunch of stuff we thought that she would have never tried before. And I filmed her reactions and it was hysterical to watch. Because it was just, root beer of all things. So yeah.
You can do that too when you're traveling. Like one of my favorite things is to go into like a mini mart or supermarket in whatever country and just look at all the stuff that is there. Like all of the different things that I would never imagine. Wow, that's a flavor combination that I've never heard of and don't think that I could ever put in my mouth. Or whatever it is funny, or even just the names, looking at stuff.
Yeah, I always play that game in Thailand with my groups. I go into the 7-Eleven there and I buy every different flavor of potato chip because they have ones like crab pizza. That was one that we tried in February. So I always do a chip tasting and roadside snack tasting. So one of the things I found out this summer, because it didn't occur to me, I was doing that whole keto diet. So I put in my backpack, I put as a snack beef jerky. And actually Lisa Anderson asked me to bring her some beef jerky as well. So I had this with me just for my own personal snacking. And then when I was in Sicily visiting my people down there, I pulled out the beef jerky for myself. And oh my gosh, everybody loved it. They were like, what is this?
What is this magical
concoction? What is this magic? Yeah, which was hysterical to me. It all disappeared like instantaneously. So that's the flip side, is that I would have never guessed people would have never had beef jerky and loved it.
So now I have to take you to one of my favorite places in Vegas, which is basically the beef jerky store, and it's in downtown. And we have to go because they have all these different kinds of flavors and you can sample them and it's like heaven. It is heaven. Ooh. I mean, it's basically like you walk in, you're like, oh God, where have you been? He's like, I'm here. It's at the beef jerky store. I've been waiting for you. Fantastic. And they have all other kinds of stuff too, like candies and nuts and all different kinds of fun stuff. It's great.
Well, that sounds really fun. Okay. Well, we got a whole slate of things to do. So,
and everybody just now, as I'm thinking of it, I just recently did a video in Cambodia of one of the like kind of like a 7-Eleven, that kind of mini mart shop.
Yeah.
So I'll put that on the Travelphile later today so you can check that out.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to do. My dad actually he kept kind of trying to get on top of me about that I need to do more grocery store videos. Actually, I need to kind of go back through my old footage. I did a grocery store like shopping video in Marks and Spencer because I'm just fascinated by Marks and Spencer.
I love Marks and Spencer.
I know. So yeah, so that needs to be a thing with this free time I have at home now. Is I think I need to go back, and you and I both need to go back through our old video files that we just made videos and we never produced them and put them up. But yeah, I have a real thing for grocery stores when
St. Peter's Basilica, by the way. No, not that. Not the Basilica. Yeah, when we go.
It was when we climbed the dome.
Yeah, that was 3 years ago. It was 2017. I was just looking at it today, but we'll put that together. It was amazing.
Oh, gosh, yeah, time is just going by way too fast these days.
Linda just said we should do a food tour in Vegas. I have done one, Linda. I have, and it was pretty good. So maybe I'll check them out again. We can see if we can do a thing for Sarah and I.
You are the food queen.
I love food.
I know you do. We really should have done what we were in Disneyland. We should have done a video on all the food that we ate at Disneyland. We ate all the food at Disneyland.
Did we not do a video?
Did we?
I think we did. Maybe we didn't do a video. And now we can't go there, which is just sad.
It's still closed?
Yeah.
Ah.
And they're laying off all of my friends. Like 28,000 people they're laying off.
Oh my gosh, that's tragic. So, Disney World's open. Why isn't it not?
Disney World is open. Disneyland isn't open because of the California restrictions.
Oh, I'm sorry. That sucks.
We just brought it down a level. Aww. Okay, bring it back up.
Okay, bring it back up. Let's see.
Lisa Anderson says that she's out of beef jerky, so somebody needs to send some to her.
What?
Lisa Anderson ate all the beef jerky that you brought her.
So I guess I'm going to have to go back and bring you more beef jerky. So, yeah, the things I brought beef jerky. I brought her pecans. I was supposed to bring her vanilla and salsa, but unfortunately they got confiscated because I ended up having to carry my bag onto the plane. But then I also brought stuff for s'mores, and I made s'mores with her son and his friends, which was hilarious because they'd never roasted marshmallows. And I did that in Sicily as well. It was very funny. And then I had trail mix. Oh, macadamia nuts. That was the other thing that I thought was really fun to share. Was macadamia nuts, because that's not something that you can find in Europe as well. So yeah, this is my new little game that every time I go to Europe from now on, I'm going to put something in my bag that I'm really sure that people have never had before.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Oh, I have to tell, sorry, just something popped into my head because thinking about like having different things in weird places, and Fran was talking about how Costco is so weird. So Fran, I just went to Costco last week with my husband, and you would not believe it, but they are selling entire jamon serrano there for $99. I don't know if that's a good price, but I told my husband, I said, if you love me, this is what you're going to get me for Christmas. And you better buy it now because it's going to be gone in like 2 weeks. And then just wrap it up, hide it from me. And then at Christmas, I'll open it and I will eat it all.
That actually would be a really good value. I mean, that would be a lot of
It's a lot. No.
Yeah.
I know that Fran's father had bought one for he and his family at one point. I don't know how fast you guys went through that. I can imagine myself going through it pretty quickly.
Yeah, me too. At the rate that I eat prosciutto, yeah. Yeah, I got to invest in like a prosciutto factory over here, because with the amount of prosciutto I eat, that would make sense. That's the thing I miss about that. That was the hard thing about being away from Italy for so long. Like as soon as I got off the plane, it was just like, I need to eat all the things. I need the good mozzarella. I need the good prosciutto. Please, can I go to a grocery store right now? I need all those things. So and it's never quite the same here, Maybe the prosciutto or the ham from Costco will be good.
My mouth is watering a lot right now because I keep thinking about it. But imagine, and also what a cool decorative piece. Just put that on your counter, have the whole leg there on your counter.
I would just hang it like from the ceiling in my kitchen over my like bar, so that everybody could just come and admire my ham hock. Did I ever tell you the time that I went to the tomato fight in Spain?
No, I didn't know you went to that. When was that?
When I got married, that was what I wanted to do for my honeymoon. That was the only thing I wanted to do. I wanted to go to La Tomatina in Spain. That was what I wanted to do. Because I'm normal.
Did it
Yeah,
hurt
so
when you
it's
get
like,
pelted with all of those tomatoes?
huh?
Does it hurt when you get pelted with all those tomatoes? Or
Yeah,
that's really
yeah,
squishy?
it does. It really
Oh,
hurts. Yeah. Yeah. So that, everybody's like, what are you going to do for your dream vacation? And I'm like, I'm going to a tomato fight in Spain. That's what I wanted to do. So I built my entire trip around going to the tomato fight in Spain. And it was super cool. And the reason I'm thinking about it is that what I didn't realize is that Tomatina, which is in a town called Buñol outside of Valencia, it's during August, during the fiesta season. All through Spain, they have fiestas in the month of August. And what I didn't realize, it was part of a larger sort of town fiesta. And so they had, and I'll never forget this, when I arrived, of course, everybody's arriving in like with goggles, and somebody had goggles with the windshield wipers and all this kind of stuff, all dressed up. I saw Japanese people in like full kimonos for the tomato fight. But then they had a pole in town. It was a greased pole.
mhm.
And at the top of the greased pole was a prosciutto. It was like a ham hock. And so the game in town was everybody tried to go and climb the pole. And it was tall. It was probably like 15 feet tall. And if you could climb to the top of the greased pole and get there, then you got to have the ham.
That's such good motivation.
I know. Yeah. I didn't try it because it was
No,
like 100 degrees and there's a ham hock in 100-degree weather. That didn't seem smart to me, but who am I to judge? Yeah, that's a whole different story. I'll have to tell that story someday, but that was one of the craziest things I've ever done. And I was finding tomato seeds in my ears like probably a week or two later. Yeah, so that was great. Fiestas in Spain are
Did you
crazy.
stop eating tomatoes for a while?
No, but I did have to throw out the pair of shoes I was wearing because it smelled so much of tomatoes that they were just like, yeah, the smell of tomatoes kind of made me feel a little barfy. Yeah. So, boy, we've had some great adventures. I've had some fun in my life. I think you have too.
Too many stories.
All right, darling, we've been talking and talking, and I think we're out of time, aren't we? Oh, we're way more than out of time.
We are.
Dang. Well, it's been great. As always, we have a good time chatting as usual.
Mhm. Thanks everybody for being here. It was
No
fun.
problem.
Thanks for
You know,
engaging.
it's-
We'll go back and look at those questions and answer them. So thank you for tuning in.
We could just do this every week, just you and I just randomly chatting.
Why not? At least once a month or something. Let's do a thing.
Okay.
No, seriously, that'll be part of our thing, like
Okay.
part of the thing that we want to film, but this could also be like the interview version of that.
Yeah, sure. Why not? Va bene. All right. I don't know. Anything else we wanted to say before we go? I thought there were a bunch of stuff we had planned on talking about. We didn't talk about any of it.
So many things. Whatever. We'll save it for the next show.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right.
All
Love
right,
you.
darling. I'll see you tomorrow. I love you too. I'll see you at the Guide Collective meeting. And for everybody out there, if you have not jumped on and checked out our big project Guide Collective, please do. Our website is guide-collective.com. And you can follow us on Facebook. Please follow us on Facebook and help to amplify our signal. There is amazing writing on there. I'm so impressed by all of our contributors, and we're getting new contributors in. We're going to be joined by David Torti, Susanna Perucchini. We're going to be joined by a whole bunch of new people. So it's going to be really cool. Please follow Guide Collective and help us to grow it, because it is a beautiful, beautiful plant or tree that is growing in many different directions. Okay. All right. Ciao, everybody. Later this week, let's see what's up on Adventures with Sarah. I don't know. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants this week. So probably there's going to be some cooking, and probably there's going to be some interviews. Guide Roundtable is going to be Thursday, and I'll be broadcasting that here as well. So see you guys back on Adventures with Sarah later this week. Ciao. Thanks, Trish.
Ciao, Sarah. This was fun. Bye.